All right. Today's the day that I never thought would actually happen, but the TSG, also known as the triple sector gear, is actually a thing. So I'm actually responsible for the original idea of this back in like 2013 when the DSG came out around those times, and I got the idea that hey, maybe we could increase the amount of the sectors to three, and if that would work. But back then it was just shrugged off as not possible. That there's no way that the timing would be possible, or even if you could make it work, it would only work at really slow speed, and you wouldn't get really any benefits from that. But turns out that you can actually make an usable setup with the TSG, and it actually has some real benefits over DSG or SSG setups. So in this video I'm gonna go around different things about how to install it, where to buy it, what are the versions, all that kind of stuff, the setup, and what you should do when building your setup. So in this instance, I have right now available two different versions of this gear. This is the one that's compatible with SHS Gen 4 gears. So this one requires some manual installation. I also have a single piece version available. That's one piece. Only thing that you need to do is you need to change the axle. But I'm gonna make a video about that version later specifically. This video is gonna be about this version. So here's the generation of SHS gears that it's compatible with. So it needs to be the version that has these two screws, and the screw is close to this tappet post here. So the way to install, or actually let me back off a bit. This gear is compatible with different ratios of these SHS gears. You can go from 13:1 to 18:1 of the standard cut, and also you can do the helical versions, the 200% and the 300% gears, and also technically you could maybe even do the 32:1 that has the bigger teeth all the way around, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that one. But here I'm using the 18:1. So what you do is you take these screws off, and then you punch this tappet cam off, and then this bottom half will come off from the top half, and then you take this top half and install it on that one. But before you do that, you should know that because of the 3D printing tolerances on this gear, you need to drill through these holes. The pin for the tappet cam is 3 millimeters, and the center pin is, or the center hole is 4 millimeters. So when you install it, make sure to drill those holes, because otherwise you're gonna crack it when installing. And then you just attach these screws, and maybe use some Loctiting glue if you wanna make sure that it's not gonna come loose. So the thing with this SHS compatible version is that you're gonna have only one cutoff cam, and that means is that if you use a traditional trigger mag like this, you're not gonna have a single firing mode. You're gonna have 3-run burst, and in my experience that 3-run burst is not reliable. It locks up. So if you use this version, you need to have an optical MOSFET that reads from the teeth. Otherwise you're not gonna have functional semi-auto. So that's one of the bad sides about this version. With the single piece version, it actually has the cams for all three. So you can potentially use a traditional mech. I haven't tested that yet. My single piece version is on its way to me. I haven't tested it yet, but it should work. If it doesn't, then you're just gonna have to use optical MOSFETs for semi-auto function. And recently I've become aware of that this gen of SHS is no longer in production. They have already moved on to Gen 5, and that's a little bit different. That version of this TSG is not yet available, so if you plan to use this, make sure to buy the set first and make sure that it's this version. If it's the newer version, then don't buy this one, it's not gonna fit. I'm gonna have the new version available at some point when I get the measurements. So there's gonna be 3 versions available for purchase. So the benefits of having a triple sector gear is, unlike you would probably guess, is that wow, you can get 90 RPS and that would be the benefit, but actually no. The timing is simply, it seems right now that that's not doable, and the hard limit of RPS you can achieve with triple sector gear is around 50 RPS, maybe 55. Around that point, it's really not possible to go past that with the current traditional tappet system. You're gonna have to use so strong tappet spring that you wear out tappets really fast, and the timing is just on the knife's edge of actually working. So I really recommend, if you buy this, is to stick to around maybe 35 to 40 RPS, and if you want to push it 50 RPS, but then you're not going to have as good FPS consistency as you would have at this 35-40 RPS that my setup is running. Actually, my setup is running at 42 RPS, as you saw on the chronoing clip that I had. So the actual benefit of having a triple sector gear is being able to use high torque gears and non-high speed motors. So you can use high torque gears and relatively high gear ratio and a low voltage battery to get a really high RPS. So that means you have really low semi-auto current and really good efficiency that way. And also, according to some of the guys that have been testing this in the TSG Dream Team, you can get really insane trigger response with this, and also not just really fast trigger response, but the follow-up shot interval is really short because the cycle length is so short. You can spam semi just incredibly fast, even way faster you can spam like DSG. So if you play indoors, this might be a good way to get really good trigger response, that you can spam semi without torturing your battery by having a really fast motor and low ratio gears. But obviously with this you're limited by FPS. In my setup I'm using a Garter M170 spring or SP170 spring, and I'm getting around 1.1 joules, or around 1 joule to 1.1. So that's 330 to 350 FPS, I think, with 0.2s. So it's an indoor FPS, not outdoor FPS. So you're not going to be able to get past 400 FPS like you would with DSG. So the rest of the setup, so this is VFC gearbox. The gears are mismatched. I have a G&G bevel, an SHS 18:1 with the TSG, and the cylinder settings I have VFC tappet plate. I really like these tappet plates. Right now this is my number one pick. I would recommend for using with TSG. It has really nice and beefy hook on it, so you can use stiffer tappet springs or shortened tappet springs without the risk of breaking off the hook. And the material is really nice. It's glass reinforced nylon, so It seems to have quite good wear resistance. I haven't had an issue with this wearing yet, at least. The spring I'm using here is actually a custom spring that I got from Raymond Cole, so special thanks for him. This is roughly equivalent to cutting a normal tappet spring by like maybe 3 or 4 coils, so you don't have to get these, but I'm gonna link it in the description where you can buy these. Also, one thing about the tappet plate, this is the current setup that I have with these specific part combinations. The timing is really close, so the way you have to modify the tappet plate is you have to cut this to about, right now it seems that people are using around 6.9 or around 6.5 to 7 millimeters long fin. That way you can get the timing, you get the tappet can return in time for the next shot. And also it seems that you have to shave the front of the tappet, the spot where the cam touches first. You have to file that notch on it so that it delays the pickup a little bit. Otherwise what you're gonna have is you're not gonna have the piston. The piston is not gonna have enough time to fully return forward before the nozzle picks up again. So you need to shave that front a little bit. And the thing with, there's a lot of variance between tappet plates. With some, the curve of this cam extends quite a far forward, so depending on what tappet plate you use, you're gonna have to file this more than others. So that what you get is so that you can adjust the timing right. I found that it should pick up the nozzle or the tappet plate around at the same time when the first pickup tooth is around the corner, so to speak, so that the piston can't be traveling forward anymore. It would be already premature engaging, so there's no point adjusting the timing later. The piston is already going to be forward around this time, so that's a good spot for the pickup. If you push higher RPS than what I'm using, I'm around 42. If you want to push around 50 or more, maybe you have to file this more this way, and also you're gonna have to file this cam shorter this way. When you have around 7 millimeters long fin, you're gonna have the nozzle return about this spot, goes forward, and then almost immediately around here or so, the piston gets released, and the next cycle begins. The timing is really on the knife's edge of working, but at this speed it seems to be working quite well. The cylinder set, this is actually a stock ENL AK one-piece cylinder that I fitted in this gearbox. Seems to work fine, and also the nozzle is SHS. It's one of these split-faced ones. There's really nice and snug fit on the nozzle on the cylinder head, so it seems to work really well because of that. And I don't have any sorbothane in this, so for the angle of engagement I've used spacers between the piston and the piston head. It's a Lonex POM piston head. This is actually this piston head is ancient. I've been using this since like 2011 in all of my TSG builds, and it's still rocking hard. No signs of breaking, and it's still holding compression perfectly. So, and the piston is SHS 15 teeth, heavily Swiss cheese. This whole assembly weighs, I think it was 17 grams when I scaled it. You don't have to switch use your piston, but it's something that I've always done with high-speed setups, and never had an issue with pistons breaking because of this. It's a good thing to do. It doesn't really increase the rate of fire, but what it does is, by having a lighter piston assembly, it actually reduces the amount of force it takes to pick up and start moving the piston backwards. So when you have a really light piston assembly, you're less likely to blow off the rack. And also it theoretically, marginally increases the rate of fire because it's lighter, but that's not really what it's for. The barrel and hop-up setup is Lonex unit, Lonex 70-degree bucking, and this barrel is VFC stock barrel that I've got down to around 180 millimeters. And I also have an air hop in here. And what else? Right now I have the stock VFC trigger assembly with a Jevtron. I think this is the MOSFET 2. So this is a simple MOSFET. There is any like computerized system here. I'm planning to use a different FET later when I get another version of the TSG, because with this one I can't get the semi-auto functionality unless I get an optical MOSFET. So this is how should I put it? So right now the TSG works, but in the future we might be able to push the RPS ceiling higher. But with the traditional tappet system, it seems like we're being bottlenecked by the timing more than by anything. So we're right now in the TSC Dream Team, we're working on figuring out ways how we could have a different system for the nozzle movement so that we could have higher RPS, but we will see how that goes. But right now, if you make this setup, you're gonna get 35 to 50 RPS, and that's it. Really nice semi response, low current draw. So it's not for those show off stuff like the TSG is. I mean, I get that it's really cool to have like 65 RPS like I used to have years ago, but in reality, that's not really like it doesn't really increase your like how much you frag on the field. Like 35 to 40 RPS is like already way above that you actually need. So you can try push this if you wanna lose your ego on your tagging abilities, but that's at least what I experienced. When I was trying to use this on an 11.1 volt battery, it's cycling at like almost 70 RPS, and it's feeding, but the FPS is dropping on full auto, and I just don't think it's doable with the current tappet system. But if you want to try, go ahead, but it's not really what the TSG is for, at least with this tappet system. So also the setup. About the setup, I'm using a stock VFC neodymium magnet motor. This is the Avalon motor with the GNG pinion gear. I believe this is 16 TPA according to what sort of RPS I got before. With the SSG and this motor 11.1 18 to 1 gears, I got like 25 RPS around that, or a little bit less. So it's roughly 16 TPA really nice motor. It runs really cool with the setup, which is, you know, 40 RPS. It's something you can't do as easily with DSG or SSG. Also, one thing I recommend is against using sorbothane, because with the TSG we have so little air volume to play with that it's better to use spacers between the piston and the piston head to adjust the angle of engagement instead of using sorbothane, because with sorbothane you increase the amount of dead volume in the nozzle area. That way you reduce the FPS you're gonna get out of it. And in case you're wondering what these marks here are, these are actually, I measured the stroke lengths for different amount of teeth. So here's the resting position. Here it gets released for 5 teeth TSG, and that's where it gets released with 8 teeth DSG, and full stroke is around here. So if you look at those marks, you're gonna be able to tell that with TSG you have about 2/5 of the air volume. So that's roughly equivalent to the cylinder volume you have in a MP5K type cylinder. So that's gonna limit your barrel length to optimally less than 200 millimeters. I would recommend maybe 150 to 180. I have 180 and that seems to be working quite well. So it's going to limit the base platform you're going to be able to use. I recommend using short rifles for this. So anyway, that's about it. Really rambly explanation about this new TSG thing, but I'm gonna put a link in the description where you can buy these. And I wish good luck to anyone trying building it. It's a nice challenge. And one thing, if you haven't built a DSG or dual sector gear build before, I would recommend against you trying to build this. The difficulty is a bit above DSG to make this run because of the timing is so close. You have to have everything running. You have to have everything running absolutely perfectly. Otherwise, you're gonna have timing issues and compression issues and stuff like that. And also, I want to give special thanks to the TSG Dream Team for pursuing me to actually try this in real. They really, without them, this would probably not be that thing, at least with my involvement. But you know who you are. There's many of you, especially Raymond Cole, for being the one contacting me and bringing me back to this teching stuff. I've been out of this for a little bit. I haven't been active on YouTube. I've still been teching, doing gun work for my friends, but I haven't been active on any platform really. So I don't know if this is my return to airsoft or anything, but at least this really caught my attention and brought back my interest in doing this kind of stuff again. So hopefully there's going to be more stuff from me, but I can't promise anything. I have different things going in my life right now, so not as much time for airsoft anymore, other interests and hobbies, but every now and then I will probably post stuff. Mostly maybe about the TSG, but maybe about other airsoft teching stuff too, but we will see. So thank you for watching.